Ethan Sanders was the epitome of the American dream, a hardworking man dedicated to building his family's stability. He spent long hours at his financial firm, diligently climbing the corporate ladder, convinced that every sacrifice was worth it for his wife, Rachel, and their two children. To the outside world, they were a picture-perfect family. However, behind closed doors rested a festering problem, one that Ethan had not yet acknowledged: trust. Rachel had always been charming, yet elusive. Every evening, as Ethan returned home exhausted, Rachel would don a mask of domestic bliss, preparing dinner and smoothing over the day's tensions. Yet, the sparkle in Rachel's eyes had dulled over the years. Ethan merely attributed that to the weight of family life. Their intimate moments had diminished, but Ethan assured himself it was just a phase, a temporary setback. Things began to change when Ethan received an unexpected call from a close friend, Josh, a mutual acquaintance with Rachel. Josh's shaky voice crackled through the phone, filled with hesitation. "Ethan, have you noticed anything off with Rachel?" Ethan brushed aside the concern. "What do you mean?" "Rachel's great, just busy with work and the kids. Just check her phone if you can. I would hate to see you hurt, man." The unease nested in Ethan's stomach, but he dismissed it. After all, he had built a life of trust, hadn't he? To even imagine the possibility of betrayal seemed unfathomable. But a nagging feeling persisted, gnawing at his thoughts like a relentless shadow. Days turned into weeks as doubt crept in. An incident at a corporate event sent a jolt of fear spiraling through Ethan. He caught her side-eyeing a man across the room, the way a moth is drawn to light. The intimate whispering between them was like nails running across a chalkboard, each word reinforcing the suspicion that demanded his attention. The man was known as Adam, Rachel's colleague, comfortable, confident, and, to Ethan's distaste, undeniably attractive. Later that night, Ethan could hardly sleep. He tossed and turned, his mind replaying images of their interactions. It was at that moment, almost out of instinct, he decided to look into Rachel's phone, a calculated risk that felt justified. The moment he unlocked the device and opened her messages, his heart plummeted. Messages flooded his screen, revealing months of explicit romance between Rachel and Adam. The terms they used were disgustingly intimate, each word cut deep, shredding what remained of his trust. Ignoring the tears that welled up, Ethan's fury ignited. It was all there, black and white, leaving no room for context or misinterpretation. In capable hands, Ethan could turn this pain into a plan. He would unravel every thread Rachel had woven with Adam until nothing remained. The beautiful facade would crumble. He approached the confrontation with cold resolve. At a company dinner where Rachel and Adam were to attend, it was time to shatter that poisoned glass. Pitting their innocent guest facade against the stark reality, Ethan confronted Rachel. He suppressed the tremor in his voice, speaking with measured venom. "I hope you're ready, because I have your text messages right here." Gasps filled the air, a hushed pause as Rachel's face went pale. She recoiled as if struck, eyes darting in panic. The facade she crafted so carefully unraveled before her. "Ethan, please, I can explain." "That's funny, because you were just talking about how much you love him. What's next? Should I ask for a receipt of your gift to Adam?" His words stung, cutting through the silence and leaving raw disbelief in their wake. But the climax didn't end there. Ethan revealed everything, his careful orchestration dismantling Rachel's reputation with surgical precision. Not only had he retrieved text messages, but financial records proved Rachel had been using their funds to finance either their dates or his extravagant gifts. Not that there was ever a question of her being a good partner. As he dismantled her defenses piece by piece, Ethan relished the horrified expressions on their colleagues' faces. Rachel was ensnared in a web of her own deceit, while Adam, once the charismatic tormentor, shrank into an unrecognizable shadow standing next to her. Their career paths flickered with uncertainty, as Ethan reveled in the satisfaction that came from being the architect of their demise. "I used your hard-earned money to buy Adam a gift," Rachel ultimately spluttered, attempting a last misconception of courage. Ethan grinned, a vicious smile spreading across his face. Every ounce of that betrayal propelled him forward. The explosive aftermath saw Rachel losing friends, their children's trust shattered, social media branding her as nothing more than a public scandal. The system that had once coddled them now sold them out, and Ethan was more than willing to flip the script. He sought legal representation and began assembling a rock-solid case for divorce, ensuring to include extensive documentation of her betrayal intertwined with financial exploitation. Rachel's dream of keeping every last cent of their joint assets crumbled as Ethan steadied onto a path of unforgiving resolve. He cut their shared accounts, froze assets, and moved his children into a safe haven where they could thrive away from the suffocating shadow of their mother's lies. Ethan was relentless. He pursued justice like a hawk soaring wide over its prey. The courtroom became his battleground, and he wielded his evidence like a sword, cutting through the clutter of entitlement and betrayal. With each court session, he reveled in her agony, the way her mask slipped further and further until her true self was painfully bare. It struck Ethan hard that some wounds would never heal, but through these anticipated victories, he cultivated resilience. The darkness she had thrust upon him only fueled the fire within, igniting a fierce resolve to thrive and chart a new journey, this time on his own terms, true to himself and unyielding. When Ethan finally stood on the other side of the courtroom, divorce papers signed and money withheld, the journey he had embarked upon bore bitter fruit. But it was his fruit. He emerged stronger, knowing no mercy was to be found for a person like Rachel, who thrived on deceit. In this brutal fight, goodness had raised its head, infinitesimally victorious, but wholly present in his essence. He left the courtroom with a sense of unyielding closure, with the scorned heart of a man turned triumphant, his decision final. Rachel, on the other hand, was just a faint shadow of the explosive confrontation, trailing desperately behind a ruined life that offered no redemption. In the end, Ethan was a man reborn, a man who discovered strength through betrayal, a man who learned to wield it, and like the ashes of a phoenix, he rose from the remnants of their once shared but now broken world. As weeks turned into months, the reality of Ethan's new life began to solidify around him. He had shed the lingering weight of Rachel's betrayal and made a conscious effort to reshape his priorities. The company that had once felt like an anchor now felt liberating, a space filled with potential rather than suffocating obligations. He immersed himself in work, focusing on projects that had once seemed daunting, fueled by a revitalized sense of purpose. Colleagues who had quietly supported him during the divorce began to notice a change. Variations of compliments drifted in his direction, celebrating the man he was becoming. Yet, the transformation did not come exclusively from work. Ethan began attending therapy sessions, confronting the jagged edges of pain that Rachel had thrust into his heart. Early conversations felt clunky. Remembering her laughter and the warmth of their past together threw him into an emotional spiral. But gradually, with each session, he learned to navigate the terrain of his wounded pride. His therapist, Sarah, became an unexpected ally. She illuminated the importance of self-acceptance and empowerment, unraveling issues of trust that dated back to his childhood. Each breakthrough brought more clarity about what it meant to love and be loved, principles that had become convoluted in his previous relationship. He no longer saw love as the soft, forgiving entity Rachel had twisted into something deceptive. Rather, he began to see love as inclusive of boundaries, strength, and self-respect. With newfound emotional wisdom, Ethan cultivated his friendships. He reconnected with Josh, who remained a loyal ally throughout his turmoil. Their evenings were filled with shared laughter and the camaraderie that had laid dormant during his marriage. Ethan also ventured into groups that sought connection, a welcome return to weekends full of joy rather than resentment. Slowly, His heart began to thaw, rediscovering its yearning for companionship. Still, lurking beneath the surface was a need for resolution. After navigating the waves of grief, he understood that to emerge completely unscathed, he needed to address Rachel. But this time, it wouldn't be about revenge. It would be rooted in shared history and the acknowledgement of their respective paths. With a calm resolve, Ethan decided to invite Rachel for a discussion, voicing the intent to lay the past to rest in a dignified manner. The meeting was arranged at a local cafe, one that had served as a backdrop for their early romantic dinners. Bitter nostalgia coursed through him, but he shut it down, determined to be unflinching. Clad in a tailored blazer and exuding a confidence that starkly contrasted with the tremulous man he once was, Ethan walked in, ready to face the embodiment of his deepest hurt. Rachel arrived, her demeanor tense, a stark contrast to the confident woman he'd once known. Clad in a casual dress, she tried to exude an air of nonchalance, but Ethan could sense the anxiety radiating from her. As she approached, he felt a spasm of something. Was it pity? Maybe a hint of sympathy? Or was it just the remnants of the person he used to cherish? "Ethan," she opened, her voice shaking slightly. "I didn't expect to hear from you." "Neither did I, Rachel," he responded, carefully structured yet assertive. "But I think it's time we address what happened between us, once and for all." He decided to steer clear of blame, opting instead to outline how her actions had torn their family apart. Ethan spoke clearly but not cruelly, laying bare the emotional toll her infidelity took on their children, weaving a poignant narrative that demonstrated how deeply intertwined their lives were, even in destruction. Rachel's expressions flickered throughout the conversation, shifting from defensiveness to regret. Ethan wished he could take satisfaction in her discomfort, but it was reduced to a simple acceptance of the messy complexity of grief they both shared. She attempted to rationalize her choices, insisting that she had felt trapped, stifled by the roles life had assigned them. "You think that gives you a pass for what you did?" Ethan challenged, a fire reigniting his resolve. "No, I just thought," Rachel stumbled, her composure crumbling. "I thought I was unhappy." Ethan let the silence hang, a powerful pause filled with a lifetime of resentment and emotional turmoil. "You didn't even attempt to communicate that. Instead, you sought validation outside our marriage, which shattered our children's trust in you. Don't you see?" She looked down away from his piercing gaze, and he could almost sense the flicker of guilt weaving through the thin veneer of her self-pity. "I apologize for the pain, Ethan," she uttered finally, almost as if the words were forced from her mouth. "I never wanted to hurt you or the kids." A surge of anger coursed through him. Words poured out like molten lava. "But your actions spoke louder than any sorry you might offer. We were a family, Rachel. Our foundation isn't just broken, it's buried deep beneath the rubble of your selfishness." Tears pooled in her eyes, but he steered clear of sympathy, reminding himself of the core sentiment that had driven him to this very moment. "No, I'm not here to comfort you, Rachel. We've lost so much, and it's time you own that." "Yes," she murmured, her resolve retreating further. "I've lost everything." "That's right, you have. And now I'm left with the pieces to pick up. But I will regain my strength and rebuild. I don't need your pity. I need you to understand the consequences of your choices." Rachel nodded, her silence heavier than words. She shifted uncomfortably, acknowledging the emotional distance they both had created. "What now?" she asked softly, her voice betraying the weight of reality. "Now you accept that you're not entitled to a second chance. This conversation isn't about reconciliation, it's about acceptance." "I need to move on." Their eyes locked for a moment, the past swirling between them, and there was no more pretense left. Rachel nodded slowly, understanding the depth of his message. "You deserve happiness, Ethan," she said finally, and this time, her voice trembled with something genuine. He met her gaze directly. The moment bore some significance, some gravity he had expected but had denied all along. "You need to understand. I no longer seek your validation. My happiness lies in discovering who I am without you." Taking a deep breath, Rachel conceded with a simple, "I'm sorry it ended this way." There was no fight left in her, no denial. She was shattered but standing nonetheless, and he admired her for it, in acknowledgement of their shared past and the scar it left behind. Ethan left the cafe with a surging sense of relief. For the first time, he felt the unmistakable wind of freedom blowing against him. He realized that this chapter had finally closed. As he walked into the vibrant world beyond, he understood that the debris of their shared life was not his burden to carry anymore. He would forge a new path, a life defined by his choices and his own values. No more would he be merely a part of a tale dictated by deceit. He smiled softly to himself, a man renewed, a man who had fought and emerged victorious, not merely against Rachel, but over his own shackling doubts. Somewhere beyond the horizon waited the promise of brighter days ahead, waiting for him to seize them with both hands. Ethan's newfound sense of purpose propelled him into an era of rediscovery and personal remaking. The sting from his past, a bitter reminder of betrayal, was transforming into fuel that ignited his drive. Days turned into months, and soon he found himself navigating a new landscape, one devoid of the shadow Rachel had cast over his life. With each passing week, he crafted a more profound connection to himself and his children, absorbing every moment that brought them joy. The early mornings spent with his kids became a cherished ritual. Instead of staring blankly at their breakfast, they would laugh, share stories, and explore new ideas. Their favorite activity became sculpture making using old newspapers, turning the living room into a messy crafting zone filled with laughter and chaotic creativity. With every crumpled ball of paper, he witnessed their personalities blossom in ways he had never seen before. Ethan took on the role of a father with renewed intensity. He involved himself more in their school lives, attending recitals, volunteering at events, and creating a stronger support system. In moments of candid reflection, he would often pause to admire how resilient his children were, marveling at their ability to cope with the turbulence that had rocked their world. He learned to listen more, to really hear what his children were voicing. "Dad, can we make a big sculpture? One that holds a secret?" his daughter Mia asked one afternoon, embodying the kind of innocence that inspired Ethan's hope. "Absolutely, kiddo. What should we make it out of?" he replied, fully engaged as he weaved her imagination into a tangible project. "We'll use everything, broken crayons, old toys, and even some glitter," she exclaimed, eyes sparkling with excitement. The freedom and joy within those moments were intoxicating, but the darker remnants of his past lingered in the background. Ethos remained vigilant, aware of the inevitable echo of his prior betrayal. Rachel's image could surge unexpectedly. Sometimes, he'd catch glimpses of her on social media or in the grocery store, and a sudden rush of anger would attack his composure. Still, he had learned to channel that energy into fostering a new life for himself. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Ethan received an unexpected message from Josh. "Hey, Ethan, I've been thinking. It's high time we gathered a few of our friends for a reunion. Let's celebrate your success and fun new beginnings." "Sounds great. I could use a night out," Ethan typed back, excitement mingling with nerves. As the reunion date approached, thoughts of what could happen filled him with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. There would be a sense of camaraderie, and a reminder of who he was before Rachel shattered his perception of happiness. The evening opened with laughter and drinks at a local bar, their favorite hangout where memories flowed as freely as the beer. Friends regaled stories from college days, some hitting too close to home. Yet, amidst the revelry, there was warmth in knowing that life was moving forward. But then, Rachel made her appearance. Not planned, not announced. Ethan's stomach sank as he spotted her conversing with a group of old friends near a corner table. The piercing reminder of his past shattered his bubble of joy, and he fumed silently as emotions clawed at him. He felt compelled to confront her, but fear and the weight of their previous exchange restrained him. As Rachel caught sight of him, she froze, her expression morphing from shock to something more complex, understanding that their shared past was an anchor that would never fully break free. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked, feeling the tension ignite the air between them. I just wanted to see old friends. It's been a while since I came back here," she replied, visibly nervous. "Right, it must be nice to avoid the reality waiting for you at home," he shot back, unable to suppress the bitterness that clung to his tongue. Rachel's composure faltered, but she fought to maintain it. "Ethan, I'm here only to see friends. I didn't plan this. You know you don't have to be hostile. Hostility is the least of your worries. You took everything from me and the kids, Rachel, and walked away." A silence enveloped them as emotions escalated, both trapped in the weight of their shared choices. "Ethan, I know I hurt you, hurt us. I can't change that, but can we at least be civil?" Rachel's voice quivered, revealing more vulnerability than he had ever seen in their interactions since the affair. The familiar pit of resentment ignited again, but beneath the anger lay a glimpse of understanding. "Civil? After everything?" he replied, the walls around his heart encasing him. "Your concept of civility means nothing now." Suddenly, Adam entered the bar, bringing with him an air of arrogance. He strode confidently in, unaware of the tension that folded like a shroud over Rachel's already strained frame. Ethan's heart raced. It was a moment of confrontation that he had long awaited. As Adam approached, he caught sight of Ethan, snaking a disdainful look toward him. "What's up, Sanders? Still harping on the past?" The remark, an insipid attempt at condescension, ignited something primal in Ethan. "What's up? You think you can swagger in and pretend everything is fine? You tore apart a family, Adam? You think that makes you a man?" Rachel stepped forward, panic etched across her face. "Ethan, please, not here." "Not here? You mean right now is when it matters most?" "Not when you two were together behind my back, ruining lives," he spat, the venom coursing through him like electricity. Taking a cautious step back, Rachel mumbled, "Can't we talk about this privately? Why should I grant you any comfort? You aren't entitled to my forgiveness," he shot back. Adam intervened with a mocking laugh. "Just face it, Ethan. You lost. I won." The air crackled, and in that moment, the world around them vanished. The clashing egos crumpled his composure, and as Rachel began to look anxious, Ethan's heart hardened. He pushed through the crowd, making a beeline for Adam. "Your victory means nothing. You are a leech, a coward disguised as a king, feeding off the misery and pain caused by betrayal." "But you're still pathetic enough to care," Adam sneered. Ethan felt the rage boil beneath his skin. The months of therapy, the transformative journey, stood teetering on the edge of collapse. But then he remembered. Every ounce of turmoil he had embraced led to strength. The pain had sculpted him into a man. "Pathetic?" he scoffed, voice low and controlled. "You stand here pretending you've won. But you'll find there's no glory in tarnishing others just to build yourself up." The words sat like ice in the air. Rachel's face flickered between shock and annoyance, the dual tide of emotions painting her in turmoil. It was empowering to stand firm, to no longer be the displaced one in the emotional arena. Ethan turned to Rachel, revealing an intensity of clarity. "What you both did is unforgivable, but it's time I reclaim myself. I deserve happiness, and you two can't steal that from me anymore." He stepped away, creating space where venomous tension lingered. Though he might have left turmoil behind tonight, he'd certainly found strength. One step closer to total liberation. As music played on, the vibrant atmosphere flared alive again, engulfing him in a wash of sound and camaraderie. His friends surrounded him, unwitting harbingers of healing in the promise of their shared laughter. Though the shadows of betrayal whispered reminders, he understood their ultimate lesson. He held the power to rise above, to carve his destiny, loud and bright. Ethan stepped into the night, triumph brewing within him. This was his journey, and there were no binds that could hold him back now. The pieces were falling into place, a testament to resilience and strength, ready to be reclaimed in time. With fresh air filling his lungs, he strove toward brighter tomorrows, buoyed by the knowledge that he was master of his fate once again. As the weeks rolled on, Ethan felt the shifting landscape of his life solidify into something meaningful. The encounter with Rachel and Adam had proved pivotal. It shoved him further into embracing his new identity, free from the chains of deceit that had shackled him for so long. With every new day, he found himself uncovering facets of his personality that had lain dormant during his marriage. The laughter of his children echoed through his home more vibrantly than ever, and he immersed himself in creating new memories with them. Ethan had rediscovered the joy of weekends full of spontaneous adventures. Whether it was weekend camping trips or impromptu visits to amusement parks, he engaged his children in lively, heartwarming experiences. His son Lucas had taken a shining to outdoor hiking after one particularly invigorating trek through a nearby national park. Each ascent mirrored Ethan's own climb out of the dark valley of despair, driven by a determination to forge ahead. "Look, Dad, I can see the whole park from here," Lucas exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement as they reached the summit of their favorite trail. Ethan beamed with pride, feeling a warmth that transcended the chilly mountain air. "You did it, buddy. That's what happens when you keep climbing," he encouraged, reminiscing about his own ascent from the shadows of betrayal. During those moments on the mountain, Ethan understood something profound. Amid the tumult of life, he was constructing solid bridges of safety for his children, reinforcing the bonds they'd need as they grew. The family unit he and Rachel had disassembled was slowly reconstructing itself, brick by brick. Yet, as his personal life flourished, his career began to see an upward trajectory as well. Ethan had fought hard for his standing at work, pushing boundaries and advocating for projects that truly excited him. Not only had he become a respected figure within his firm, but he was also gaining traction for the comprehensive social program he'd envisioned, one aimed at helping families facing financial instability, a topic close to his heart after his own experiences. His colleagues were genuinely excited about his initiative. They wanted to be a part of something that offered real help and empowerment to those struggling in their wake. As word spread, local businesses pledged their support, and volunteers came forth, eager to make a difference in their community. "Ethan, this is going to change lives," one of his coworkers remarked during a brainstorming session, enthusiasm evident in her voice. "Exactly. This isn't just a program, it's about community rebuilding," he replied, feeling the sparks of passion ignite once more within him. In the midst of this newfound vitality, he received a phone call that sent shockwaves through his carefully crafted world. It was from Rachel, her voice trembling on the line. "Ethan, can we talk? It's important," she urged, her tone a mix of apprehension and uncertainty. The thought of facing her again unsettled him, but the tone in her voice compelled him to entertain the call. "Okay, where?" "I'll meet you at the same cafe we visited last time," she suggested. The memory of their confrontation lingered heavily in the air as he pulled into the parking lot. As Ethan entered the cafe, he was greeted not by anger, but by an unfamiliar, quieter version of Rachel. She sat alone, her expression softened. "Thanks for coming," she said, her eyes clouded with vulnerability. "I know things have been rough, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about us. About life." Ethan took a seat opposite her, cautiously curious about the shift in her demeanor. "What's on your mind?" "I messed up. I've lost so much trying to run from my mistakes. My job is a mess, and I've been trying to find out who I am," she confessed, looking visibly strained, as though she were carrying a heavy burden. "Are you here to apologize?" Ethan probed, frustration simmering beneath the surface. Rachel shook her head, her voice trembling. "It's not that simple. I don't expect forgiveness, not from you. But I am trying to understand if I can even forgive myself. The guilt eats at me daily, especially concerning the kids. They can't seem to look at me the same anymore." Ethan felt his heart waver, battling between remnants of sympathy and the hurt she had inflicted. "You chose your path, Rachel. You chose to go down that road, and you broke us in the process." "I know," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "I see their disappointment, and it haunts me. It isn't just my loss, it's their loss too. I never wanted to hurt them. He felt an unfamiliar shift, a mixture of pity and annoyance gnawing at his resolve. You still haven't answered my question? What do you want from me? You walked away, Rachel. You turned your back. Why should I help you now? I don't know. I just want you to understand that it's not just about me. I still care about our family, and I want to be better, to repair what I can, she implored. Ethan remained silent, contemplating her words, the ache within him swirling like a turbulent sea. Words are easy, Rachel. She reached across the table and looked directly into his eyes. I'll prove it. I'm willing to do what it takes to earn back their trust, to regain my place if they'll let me. A moment of tension ensued, her vulnerability piercing through the fortified walls he had erected around himself. Yet, hope danced cautiously at the edges of his consciousness, wavering, demanding to be acknowledged. Regaining trust is a long road, and it can't be built on empty promises, he said, his tone measured as he gauged her sincerity. I'll consider your request, but understand it will take time. My heart is still healing, and the kids need that healing too. Rachel nodded, tears escaping down her cheeks. The facade she had long carried began to crack, revealing a raw vulnerability that struck Ethan deeper than he had anticipated. Just give me a chance, please. Let me show you that I'm working on becoming a better person for the kids and myself, she pleaded, her voice almost breaking. Ethan let the silence stretch between them, mulling over the enormity of her request. What would a second chance mean for their family? Could he really allow Rachel back into his and his children's lives without re-traumatizing them? Yet, he understood that healing could be a multifaceted journey, one that never promised a perfect ending. Finally, he replied, I'll think about it, about giving you the opportunity. But you must take accountability for your actions. This is about change. That said, he felt lighter somehow, as if the weight of the last few months began to shimmer. Perhaps there was something to be salvaged after all, though the road ahead would be long. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Ethan witnessed something in Rachel, a flicker of determination amid the uncertainty. Though he remained skeptical, he saw a glimpse of the person he had once loved deep beneath the ruins of betrayal. Ethan stepped back into his new life, propelled by uncharted emotions. There would still be battles to fight, hurdles to contend with, but he was beginning to grasp the essence of rebuilding, not just for himself, but also for his children. He was now part of a narrative that was no longer ruled by resentment, but filled with the possibility of healing. Even surrounded by shards, he discovered he could pivot the story into one of hope, resilience, and, perhaps, redemption. Time would tell what shape it ultimately would take. For now, Ethan welcomed the uncertainty with open arms, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The days following his conversation with Rachel were a swirling mix of emotions for Ethan. It felt strange, almost surreal, to contemplate the idea of allowing her back into their lives, even in a limited capacity. The thought of facilitating her potential redemption stirred conflicting feelings within him. Resentment still simmered beneath the surface, yet a nascent curiosity lingered. What would a new chapter look like? One evening, while tucking the kids into bed, Lucas turned to him with wide, innocent eyes. Dad, can we have a family day soon? Like when Mom was here? Ethan's heart sank. The memories of their previous family outings flooded his mind, bringing warmth laced with sadness. After everything that had happened, was it right to even entertain the thought of a family day with Rachel? Maybe we can do something special together, Ethan replied, voice steady, masking his inner turmoil. Just you and me and Mia for now. How about that? Okay, Lucas said, his enthusiasm unperturbed. In that moment, Ethan realized the children were navigating their own complex emotional landscape. They missed a dynamic that had been an integral part of their lives, and he needed to balance that longing with the reality of what Rachel had done. At breakfast the next morning, with sunlight bathing the kitchen, Ethan decided to address the recent events directly with Mia and Lucas. "I had a talk with your mom," he stated cautiously. Lucas put down his fork and glanced up, intrigued. "Is she coming to visit?" Ethan ruminated for a moment, weighing his words carefully. "We talked about her wanting to be a part of your lives again, but it will take time to make sure things are safe and healthy." Mia frowned, her little brow furrowing with concern. "Do you want her to?" "I just want to make sure everything is okay for you both," Ethan replied, observing their reactions closely. "I want you to feel comfortable, and if you ever have questions, I want you to come to me." Mia nodded slowly, glancing at Lucas, whose enthusiasm for the idea was already waning. "I don't want her to hurt us again, Dad." Her voice was steady, tinged with an innocent wisdom. The simplicity of her statement struck Ethan to the core. "That's exactly what I'm afraid of too," he admitted. "But people can change, and we'll figure this out together." As the conversation followed its natural course, Ethan felt reassured he was taking the right approach. They could navigate this uncertainty together, albeit cautiously. When he witnessed Lucas grin again, his uncertainty faded for a moment. Days turned into a soft rhythm. Ethan stayed connected with his children, creating a foundation marked by laughter and resilience. They spent weekends cycling through the park, baking cupcakes, and exploring new hobbies. Every day contributed to an evolving narrative that enveloped love and learning, proving that healing was a daily commitment. However, the tension surrounding the prospect of Rachel shadowed their lives. Each time Ethan checked his phone, he hoped for a message from her, yet each silent moment seemed to deepen the space between the past and present he was trying to navigate. A week later, Rachel called again, her voice steady but tentative. "Ethan, I really want to start showing the kids that I'm working on being better. Can we please do something together this weekend?" The weight of her request pressed down on him. Part of him wanted to protect their newfound happiness, while another part recognized the potential growth in allowing Rachel a small space. After a long pause, he said, "All right, let's keep it simple. A picnic." "Thank you," Rachel breathed a sigh of relief. "Something casual is perfect." That Saturday morning, Ethan was abuzz with anticipation mixed with anxiety. He packed picnic essentials, sandwiches, fruit, and the freshly baked goods the kids insisted on bringing. Lucas and Mia were animated as they prepared the blanket, praising the variety of treats they had chosen to share with their mother. As they arrived at the park, Ethan's heart raced. The sun spread warmth over the lush green grass, and laughter mingled in the air from children playing nearby. For a moment, he felt hope, a fleeting second where everything could be all right. Rachel approached, her demeanor both eager and apprehensive. She offered a shy smile that couldn't hide the nervousness shimmering in her eyes. "Hey, everyone!" she called out as she stepped closer. "Hi, Mommy!" Lucas shouted, waving enthusiastically. Ethan observed as Mia approached her mother and hugged her shyly. "Hi," was all she managed, her voice barely above a whisper, silently judging the sincerity of Rachel's smile. "Hey, sweet girl," Rachel replied, her voice warm but laced with an awkwardness that hung in the air. They settled on the blanket, and despite Ethan's best efforts, the conversation was strained, marked by uncertainty. He watched his children navigate the shifting dynamics, attempting to engage Rachel while also gauging her authenticity. They spoke about their favorite games, their school projects, and even shared their latest outdoor adventures. "Remember when we went hiking?" Lucas chimed in, looking excitedly at Rachel. "That was so fun." "Yes, I miss those adventures," Rachel added, her gaze lingering on Lucas, subtle glimmers of affection mixed with regret. Feeling the emotional weight pressing upon him, Ethan broke the moment of tension. "You know, I believe we can make more memories together, but this is a two-way street. You need to take responsibility for how things went before." Rachel turned serious, nodding. "I understand, Ethan. I recognize that I lost a lot more than I ever realized, and I want to be better for you all. It's hard to explain how sorry I am." The sun warmed them as Ethan steeled himself, considering the gravity of her words. "I'm not asking for an instant miracle. Rebuilding trust is a marathon, not a sprint. Rachel nodded, her gaze unwavering. I'm in this every step of the way. I want to earn back their love. I want to be their mother again. Ethan watched as the sincerity in her voice lingered, understanding the deep yearning for acceptance. He felt a flicker of hope, yet the fragile facets of trust were still healing, pieces of glass sharp enough to cut. It would take time. All right, he said, stressing the need for patience, but I'll be watching closely. The kids need to process too, and we want you to be a part of that journey. The remainder of the picnic unfolded with genuine warmth. Laughter echoed beneath the sprawling trees, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan allowed himself to visualize the potential for healing in their fractured family. As the afternoon sun dipped low in the sky, casting beautiful shadows over their blanket, he felt an inkling of possibility, fragile but inviting. It was a tentative first step in rediscovering what family meant, underscored by the growing bond amongst them. Rachel may not have been the idyllic mother her children had once known, but in that moment, she was beginning to show signs of earnestness. Leaving the park, together in a slightly reformed constellation, Ethan felt hope unfurling amidst uncertainty. With locked arms around his kids, he walked toward what lay ahead. There, beyond the horizon, he could sense not just the challenge of rebuilding trust, but the prospect of creating a new world of acceptance and compassion. Navigating the river of their new life was never going to be smooth, but with each gentle stroke, Ethan found a rhythm that carried both his family and himself toward better shores. The journey ahead promised to be complex, fraught with trial, but now it was colored with a cautious optimism that had begun to paint their world anew. The following weeks were a delicate dance of cautious steps and tentative advances. Ethan and Rachel began to build a dialogue, focusing on the children and establishing boundaries. Soft phone calls, more frequent visits, and shallow exchanges gradually progressed into something deeper, a semblance of cooperation primarily for Mia and Lucas's sake. Yet Ethan remained ever watchful, keeping his heart guarded while hoping for meaningful change. Rachel had taken parenting classes, hoping to equip herself with tools that would mend the rift she had created. At times, Ethan would catch sight of a glimmer of the mother she could be, engaged, eager, willing. He'd often find her watching Lucas and Mia play, admiration written all over her features. Each time he saw her glowing with pride over their achievements, he had to remind himself of the considerable distance they had yet to traverse. One crisp Saturday morning, Ethan suggested a picnic at the park. Let's plan something that feels fun and relaxed. Just the four of us, he proposed, disguising his apprehension with excitement. Rachel agreed quickly, her eagerness palpable. Thank you for giving me this chance, Ethan. It means a lot. He simply nodded, feeling the weight of their shared past hover over them like a heavy cloud. As the day unfolded, they gathered supplies together, sandwiches, fruits, and snacks that echoed childhood pleasures. Ethan did his best to maintain a light-hearted atmosphere, glancing occasionally at Rachel to catch her reaction. Arriving at the park, the vibrant energy burst forth. The sounds of laughter filled the air, and the children ran ahead, tugging eagerly at Ethan's hand while Rachel trailed slightly behind, caught in her thoughts. Sitting on a blanket, Ethan watched the children, reminiscent of his own childhood days, and the familiar warmth enveloped him. Yet, he sensed Rachel watching too, her gaze laden with reminiscence, a mixture of joy and an undercurrent of guilt. Can we play tag? Lucas shouted, breaking Ethan's contemplative silence. Great idea, Rachel encouraged, her spirits lifting as she joined in the fun, laughter escaping her lips as she chased after the kids. Ethan observed, his heart cautiously warming as he marked the easy way Rachel interacted with them, throwing herself into the moment. After a while, Ethan called for a break. The children flopped onto the blanket, panting and flushed with exhilaration. Mom, you're fast, Mia giggled, genuinely impressed. Rachel smiled, the expression reaching her eyes. Just a little bit of practice, she replied, laughter mingling with a hint of pride within her voice. In that moment, Ethan felt a strange sense of hope. Rachel was showing up, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Still, He could sense the invisible line between them that he wasn't ready to cross. He wanted to believe in the evolution of family, yet memories of betrayal lingered like an unwelcome ghost waiting to reemerge. As they transitioned into eating lunch, Ethan slipped into conversation with the kids, asking about school and friends, sidestepping emotional depth while feeling Rachel nod in agreement. To her credit, she engaged with them earnestly, asking playful questions that yielded giggles and astonishingly candid replies. "Do you think we should go to the zoo next?" Ethan asked, trying to steer the topic toward future plans. "Yes!" Both kids cheered simultaneously, and for a moment, anxiety dissolved in laughter. Later in the week, Rachel called once more, keen to discuss plans for the zoo visit. "Ethan, I want us to make this special. I can't wait to share this adventure with the kids." "That sounds great, Rachel. Just be sure to bring your patience. We'll need it," he joked, trying to keep the tone light. The week rushed by in a blur filled with anticipation. Rachel arranged for a fun-filled day, ensuring they could explore, engage in petting zoos, and create opportunities for shared memories. That Saturday morning, Ethan could see the kids buzz about with excitement that mirrored his own lingering anticipation. The vibrant colors of the zoo enveloped them when they arrived, spilling joy over the family's hearts. They wandered through pathways filled with exotic animals, and Lucas exclaimed with excitement, "Look, Mom! The lions!" Ethan watched Rachel bend low to capture pictures with the kids, a joy radiating from her as she engaged them in thrilling tales about each creature. Although there was still caution lodged in his heart, he couldn't help but appreciate the moments Rachel created for their children. "Mom, can we get ice cream later?" Mia asked, eyeing a vendor a short distance away. "Of course. How about we go get some now?" Rachel replied, and the kids cheered, their joy spilling over in reckless abandon. With ice cream cones in hand, Ethan found comfort in the ease with which Rachel and the children connected. For the first time, he felt a flicker of the family he missed so desperately. While he had anticipated a multitude of hurdles, this moment, small yet vital, began to chip away at the cold fortress he erected around his heart. As they strolled toward the reptile house, a low rumble of thunder resounded overhead, cautioning them of the impending storm lurking in the sky. The clouds gathered quickly, mirroring his indecision about Rachel's presence in their lives. "Let's hurry," Lucas called out, racing ahead. The skies darkened as drops of rain began to cascade, forcing them inside the reptile house, where the air turned refreshing and cool. Inside, the visibility inside the darkened habitat emphasized lurking shadows. The atmosphere shifted slightly. Rachel enthusiastically shared details about the snakes and iguanas, functioning as an impromptu guide. Eagerly, the kids leaned into her, captivated. Ethan found a spot nearby, leaning against the wall, his heart finally beginning to thaw a fraction more. He realized he was witnessing a transformation, not just in Rachel, but also in himself. With every laugh, every interaction, something in him peeled back, revealing the parts that had been suffocated. As they moved deeper through the exhibit, thunder cracked again, louder this time, causing the children to jump in affright. Sensing the alarm in their eyes, Ethan wrapped an arm around each, pulling them close. "No need to be scared. It's just a sound. Not going to hurt us." He felt Rachel's eyes on him, watching as he instinctively reassured their children. "You've got this," she murmured softly, recognition bleeding into the air between them. In that moment, something vital shifted. It wasn't just the love he wrestled with, but the understanding that healing, while intricate, was ongoing. Each laugh the kids shared, every story Rachel recounted, was a thread they were weaving together again, fragile yet palpable. The rain poured continuously as they walked to the exit, and by the time they arrived back in the parking lot, the world outside was drenched. "Can we run?" Mia asked, her eyes twinkling mischievously. "Why not?" Ethan replied, adrenaline coursing through his veins. In a flash, the kids took off, laughter ringing in the air as they splashed through puddles, all of them delighting in the sheer joy of the impromptu adventure. Rachel and Ethan stood momentarily still, exchanging knowing smiles. In that fleeting instance, he caught a glimpse of the family he had once cherished. They were not yet whole, but they were on their way. Feeling the rain dance around him, Ethan decided to embrace the moment. He called out to Rachel, "Come on! Let's not let them have all the fun." They joined in, the laughter spilling out as they raced across the puddles like children themselves, delighting in the unexpected adventure life had thrown at them. Each splash mirrored the promise of renewal. Through the laughter and splashes, clarity surfaced. Time could indeed yield unexpected pleasures. As they caught their breath afterward, Ethan felt lighter, content in the chaos of the rain-soaked reunion. Life would continue to challenge them, but together they could navigate whatever winds blew their way. Though forgiveness was still a hard journey ahead, the first steps had been taken. They were carving their narrative anew, one that held the complexities of healing, hope, and determination amid the reflections of the past. Whether it would culminate in familial bonds or reshape their identities, he could finally see glimmers of possibility, recognizing that life was as unpredictable as the rain gently cascading around them. And with that acceptance, he felt that perhaps they could emerge on the other side, together, sobered yet renewed. The weeks that followed the zoo trip flowed into one another, transforming the landscape of Ethan's life and family dynamic. As Rachel continued her efforts to rebuild trust, they navigated a series of shared activities with the kids, movie nights, board game tournaments, and even cooking dinner together. These moments, once overshadowed by resentment, morphed into building blocks of connection. The atmosphere at home felt lighter, filled with laughter and the echoes of familial banter. Yet, beneath the surface, Ethan understood the complexity of their circumstances. While things appeared optimistic, the path toward healing was neither linear nor easy. Trust was still a fragile commodity, and even the smallest misstep could send ripples through their tenuous progress. One Friday evening, with Rachel preparing dinner and the kids bustling in the living room, Ethan received a notification on his phone. The news flashed in front of him, carrying unexpected details that reverberated through his mind. Adam had publicly announced his engagement on social media. Ethan's reaction was instantaneous, sharp, and visceral. A wave of anger surged through him, mixed with emotions he had thought were long buried. The brief elation he had begun to feel regarding Rachel shattered like glass. Adam, the man who had betrayed not only Ethan but the sanctity of his family, was now moving on, unharmed and celebrated. He glanced toward the kitchen, where Rachel hummed softly, oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside him. A sudden rush of resentment tainted their newfound harmony. Instinct told him to confront Rachel, to allow a swarm of emotions to bubble over, but something else restrained him. What purpose would it serve? Did he want to ruin what they were building? Instead, he took a step back, distancing himself. Perhaps it was the lesson of self-restraint he had gleaned through therapy. Processing through anger instead of lashing out felt uncharacteristic but ultimately necessary. As the evening progressed, Ethan sat with the kids to help with homework, while Rachel concentrated on dinner preparations. Yet, his mind was with Adam, churning through memories and regrets as he heard the sound of Rachel's laughter carrying in from the kitchen, a stark contrast to his professional facade. In that moment, resentment and unease nestled within him, wrestling for dominance. "Dad, can you help me with this math problem?" Lucas asked, pulling Ethan back into the present. "Sure, buddy. Let's tackle it together," he replied, forcing himself to smile, although he felt far away. When dinner was finally ready, everyone gathered around the table, and it took considerable effort for Ethan to suppress his rising emotions. "Dinner looks amazing, Rachel," he managed to say, meaning every word amid the clashing thoughts. As they ate, Mia shared stories about her school friends, and Lucas chimed in with amusing anecdotes. The laughter helped diffuse some of the heaviness inside him, yet the image of Adam's smug grin haunted him. How could someone so disruptive dance through life without repercussion? After dinner, while the kids headed to their rooms, Ethan's resolve began to fray. Was Rachel truly worthy of the second chance? Could they really continue on this path when the ghosts of the past lingered, he needed to address his feelings before they consumed him entirely. "Rachel, can we talk for a moment?" he said, pronouncing her name deliberately, signaling a shift. "Of course," she replied, setting down her dishes. They moved to the living room, a refuge decorated with remnants of their shared history. The laughter that resonated moments ago felt like a distant memory, replaced by the weight of impending conversation. "What's wrong? You seem distant," Rachel said, concern marbling her features. Ethan inhaled deeply as he struggled to articulate his tumultuous feelings. "I heard about Adam's engagement," he confessed, gauging her reaction. An unmistakable shadow crossed Rachel's face. "Oh, you're not going to defend him, are you? Pretend he's deserving of happiness after what he did?" Ethan couldn't shake the anger creeping into his voice, realizing he was fully leaning into their shared past. "No, I won't defend him," she said firmly, her tone resolute. "But I can't control what he does or how he moves on. Obviously, I don't wish him any happiness. I just want to focus on us." "On us," Ethan echoed, the bitterness still raw. "You've never felt his consequences. You got to walk away scot-free except for a few damaging choices. Yet here I am stuck juggling memories and emotions, trying not to mirror the rage I want to pour out." "Ethan, this isn't fair," Rachel shot back, her voice laced with frustration. "I know I've made mistakes, huge ones, but I'm trying here. I'm working on it. I'm not saying you aren't. But every time I think we're making progress, every time I see some potential for a new future, I am reminded of the life you shattered. And suddenly it feels like I'm the only one living with those consequences." Rachel looked stricken, a mix of hurt and understanding reflected in her eyes. "I want to take responsibility for my actions. I want to prove to you and the kids that I can be better." The fervor behind her words simultaneously shook and soothed him. "Then maybe we should focus on healing completely, together. But it's easier said than done. I don't know if I'm equipped to forgive or forget." Silence filled the space between them as they both pondered the weight of his admission. The challenge of rebuilding themselves was a vast ocean, one riddled with turbulent waves. "Ethan, I know I can't change the past, but I hope one day you can find a way to move forward," Rachel said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Perhaps," he replied cautiously, the rawness of the evening still unsettled within him. "I want to find a way forward, but it will take time, and I will need you to respect that." Rachel nodded, her expression one of pained acknowledgement. The conversation, while fraught, felt like a step back toward openness. Yet clarity dawned on him that their path was still marred, with scars deep enough to make both of them question their footing. "Why don't we just take things one day at a time?" Rachel suggested, trying to shift the atmosphere back toward hopeful. Ethan offered a small nod, but the gnawing uncertainty remained. "Okay, one day at a time." As they concluded their conversation, the night hung in a delicate balance. Each decision, each day forward, was filled with potential yet shadowed by the weight of their past. With unresolved tension floating around, he felt uncertainty stir in his chest, but he understood they could no longer hide from their truth. As time pressed forth, the sun rose once again over the horizon, bringing with it opportunities for healing, connection, and, hopefully, reconciliation. The path ahead remained murky, yet Ethan found solace in the belief that they could face it together. Perhaps there was still a flicker of hope, however dim, capable of igniting a new journey far removed from their tumultuous past. With each turn of the page, he was prepared to write that story privately with cautious optimism, one small step at a time. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and Rachel settled into a new routine that revolved around the kids, creating a shared narrative they could manage together, a delicate dance that felt both comforting and chaotic. They were becoming masters of the art of forging cooperation amidst the shadows of their past. However, the specter of Adam's reemergence still loomed heavily. Every time Ethan received a news update or a casual mention of the man who had disrupted his life, a wave of bitterness washed over him. Adam had publicly flaunted his new relationship, showcasing what appeared to be a dream to the outside world, a stark juxtaposition to Ethan's still choppy waters. It served as a continuous reminder of loss, both what he had with Rachel and the image of a perfect life he had once envisioned. One evening during a family game night, Ethan stifled a sigh when Lucas innocently exclaimed, "Can we play that funny board game where everyone yells at each other?" "Sure, I'm ready to win," Rachel replied, her playful spirit infectious. Ethan found himself smiling as they settled into their spots around the table, tension momentarily forgotten in the atmosphere of camaraderie. The kids' laughter resonated, echoing joy, but in the pit of his stomach, he felt a flicker of unease about the implications of their blended family dynamic. The next day, however, tension returned abruptly. Ethan received an unexpected message from a mutual friend, sharing a post about the upcoming wedding of Adam and his new fiancée, complete with an invitation for friends to attend. A mixture of fury and heartbreak churned inside him, a tempest threatening to break free. Was it even fair that Adam had not only escaped the fallout, but had designed an entirely new chapter? That evening, Ethan decided to speak with Rachel. He needed to uphold their foundation of honesty, especially given what hung over them. "Rachel, can we sit down? I saw something today that's really bothering me." "Of course, what is it?" she asked, concern etched across her features. "I got an invitation about Adam's wedding," he replied, fortifying each word as if sharpening a knife. Rachel's expression shifted, a muted shock cascading over her features. "Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change the fact that he's moving on. It's infuriating. He gets to live this life while I'm still picking up the pieces." Ethan's voice rose slightly, laced with a frustration that had festered for weeks. "Ethan, please. I know how much this hurts. I can't take away the pain he caused you or make what he's doing feel lesser," Rachel said gently. "But I'm here now and I'm trying to be a better person every day. We need to focus on us and the kids." "Us? You think I'm confused about where I stand? It's just hard to reconcile all of this. Living life as if nothing has changed," he countered, the fight leaving his voice raw. Despite the tensions, she reached out, placing her hand softly on his. "It may feel like everything should have changed, but I can't change the past. You need to choose whether you want to heal or remain stuck feeling this way." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, contemplating her words. Was he allowing Adam's life to dictate his happiness? Should he be defiant, push through the anger and fight for his own peace? "I'm not trying to remain stuck," he replied after a pause. "But every time something like this happens, it brings everything rushing back. It's exhausting." "I understand," Rachel said, her tone softer, but it held the gravity of her past mistakes. "It's like you're wrestling with two realities. You deserve to feel the anger, but don't let it consume you." He met her gaze, realizing that amidst their struggles, Rachel was actually displaying empathy, a quality he had thought was lost amidst the wreckage of their lives. "I don't want this to ruin what we're trying to build," he admitted, his voice almost a whisper. Rachel nodded, grateful for his honesty. "Let's work through this together. Just remember, I'm committed to showing you that we can create something better, something real." That night weighed heavily on them both. Despite moments of comfort they had fostered, the specter of Adam still shadowed their efforts, weaving tension back into the fabric of their lives. The angle of trust reeked of fragility, and every interaction felt like a step on a tightrope. The following week, they had planned a casual family outing to a local carnival. Ethan welcomed the excitement the event promised, while internally preparing himself to navigate the mystery of Rachel sitting amongst them. As they drove there, the children squealing with delight in the back seat, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of hope mixed with apprehension. "Are you excited?" he asked, glancing at the kids through the rearview mirror. "Yes! Ferris wheel! Games!" Mia shouted, her voice bursting with anticipation, as Lucas chimed in with even louder enthusiasm. "Let's make today amazing, okay?" Rachel said, radiating vibrance, and that familiar warmth crept back into Ethan's heart. Upon arrival, the carnival glimmered with lights and joy. Families energetically navigating through stalls, filled with enticing treats and thrilling rides. As they weaved through the crowd, Ethan tried to keep his focus on the present, moment by moment. He wanted them all to enjoy today, without the weight of yesterday pulling them down. Rows of colorful tents housed games, sugary snacks, and the thrill of laughter. Ethan watched as Rachel and the kids experienced joy in every corner of the fair, a part of him appreciating those spontaneous moments that felt genuine and fulfilling. "Can we go to the Ferris wheel?" Lucas asked eagerly, tugging at Ethan's sleeve. "Absolutely. Let's do it," Ethan said, his excitement melding with theirs, as they made their way toward the towering ride. As they climbed into the compartments, Ethan felt the surge of adrenaline as it began to ascend slowly, rising higher and higher above the carnival. From their vantage point, he marveled at the view. On display were vibrant rooftops glimmering in the afternoon light, and a sprawling sea of faces, lost in joy. "Look at everything below," Mia shouted, eyes wide open as they reached the top, her adventurism contagious. Rachel joined in their enthusiasm, pointing out various attractions. "See that game booth? We'll have to try our hand at that one next." Amidst the exhilaration, Ethan experienced a moment of vulnerability, a strangely refreshing feeling as he took in the joyful expressions of his children and Rachel. Whispers of worry began to recede, sending the past back into a distant corner. When the Ferris wheel began its descent, a subtle shift occurred. Ethan realized they were slowly starting to build another version of their family, not perfect, but filled with possibilities. The sky was lightly painted with twilight hues, a beautiful reminder of the cycles of their lives. "Today's been amazing," Ethan said as they stepped down, the thrill still echoing in the air around them. "We should do this more often," Lucas exclaimed, almost bouncing with excitement. "Yes!" "We absolutely should," Ethan agreed, throwing Rachel a glance filled with understanding. As they continued through the carnival, he felt the layers of guilt and resentment peel away, revealing an inkling of hope. If they could face challenges together, striving to be better, then maybe this second chance held greater power than he had thought possible. Throughout the evening, laughter and shared moments began to build a deeper trust within himself, sparking feelings of genuine connection between them. Though the specter of Adam was still swirling in the backdrop, there was another story presently unfolding, one of resilience, forgiveness, and becoming. By the end of the night, as they returned home, weary from the excitement, Ethan knew they hadn't solved everything, but the feeling of hope lingered. There would always be storms to weather, but perhaps, with determination, they could create a life richer in joy than sorrow. In the hollows of his heart, Ethan realized that they were not defined merely by the betrayals of the past, but by the steps they took together in pursuit of healing. And while the road remained long for the first time, he could feel optimism rising within him, a promise of togetherness blooming under the light of the new dawn. As autumn set in, its vibrant colors reflecting the changes blossoming in Ethan's life, he found himself more committed to nurturing the family dynamic they were rebuilding. The carnival outing had opened an avenue of hope, but with each passing day, lingering doubts still danced in the back of his mind. While the kids embraced this new chapter, Ethan grappled with the remnants of resentment that occasionally surfaced. Neighborhood activities brought the family together. They became a familiar sight in community events, participating in Halloween festivities, volunteering for food drives, and even cultivating a small vegetable garden in their backyard. Now, somehow living not just together, but collaboratively. Ethan marveled at how much happier things felt. Rachel was present, actively contributing and engaging, reminding him why he had fallen in love with her so many years ago. However, the lingering specter of Adam occasionally crept back into Ethan's thoughts, especially when he stumbled upon posts on social media announcing the upcoming wedding. He would sometimes find himself staring at old photographs of the life they once had, before Adam. A part of him longed to drown out the noise, insisting on focusing on what was right in front of him, his children and the opportunity for a new family dynamic. He knew the past didn't deserve to dictate their present. One evening, while helping Lucas with a school project, Ethan noticed Rachel in the kitchen, preparing dinner with a level of style he had previously admired. Her energy was warm, and she hummed cheerfully as she cooked, filling the room with savory scents. "Dad, look, I made this," Lucas exclaimed, proudly presenting a model of the solar system. Impressed, Ethan smiled broadly. "That's incredible, buddy. I didn't know you were such a great architect." As they continued to work, Ethan stole glances at Rachel. She seemed lighter and fuller of life. Witnessing her happiness brought a warmth to his chest. It was an odd juxtaposition against the always fresh echoes of insidious betrayal that seemed to taunt him at various intervals. As they sat down for dinner, Ethan seized the opportunity to bring up the topic he had been pondering. "You know, this model is great, Lucas. I was thinking maybe we could make a trip to the Science Museum soon. They have a super cool planetarium." "That would be awesome." "Can Mom come too?" Lucas asked, his eyes bright with excitement. "Of course. We want everyone to have fun," Ethan replied, the idea nestling in his mind as he glanced at Rachel. "Absolutely." "I'd love to," she chimed in, smiling brightly, her enthusiasm mirroring the children's. As dinner progressed, the conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated with laughter over shared stories and playful banter. Yet, as they talked about the museum trip, Ethan deeply contemplated how he could truly move forward, while still disentangling himself emotionally from Rachel's past choices. Later, once the kids were safely tucked away, Ethan found Rachel in the living room, her demeanor reflecting warmth but also uncertainty. "I loved your reaction at dinner. The kids are so excited about the museum. Thank you for being so involved," he said. "I made a promise to be here for them," Rachel replied softly. "Being part of their lives again means the world. But I want to ensure it's real, for you and me," he said, his sincerity palpable. "It's not just about the kids. I want to know if we can learn to love each other again amidst this." Rachel looked down, biting her lip, clearly wrestling with the weight of their past. "Ethan, I still think about everything I've done. I know it will take more than just time to mend things, to rekindle the trust. But I believe we can pave a new path. I really do." He held her gaze, compelled by her commitment, yet painfully aware that they were still living at the intersection of love and betrayal. "Can we make a pact? We can keep this openness flowing. Share our fears and frustrations as they arise." "Absolutely. I want to make that commitment too," Rachel agreed, her honesty shining through. With that unspoken vow, he felt lighter. Perhaps they could journey through time together, side by side, confronting the ugliness of the past while creating something beautiful and new. The next step wouldn't come without challenges, yet they were willing to rebuild the framework for their relationship. As the days rolled on, preparation for the Science Museum trip became a group effort. The kids were feverishly creating new models, drawing diagrams and bouncing ideas off each other, while Ethan and Rachel orchestrated surprise snacks and car games along their route. The day of the museum arrived, shrouded in an enthusiasm that brought Ethan back to the simple joys of being a father. On the drive over, the sun painted the world in golden hues, and laughter erupted as they played predictive games about the exhibits they'd encounter. "Bet I can name all the planets before we get there," Lucas declared, eagerness bubbling in his voice. "Only if you can remember which order they go in," Ethan challenged, stepping into the playful banter with renewed vigor. Once inside the museum, the family marveled at the spacecraft, life-size dinosaurs, and glittering mineral exhibits. Rachel and Ethan observed their children's wonderment with shared glances, words unspoken yet understood. The enthusiasm radiating from their children served as a beacon of hope, illuminating the warmth that had begun to creep back into their lives. At the planetarium show, they sat together, crammed close under twinkling stars projected across the dome. Lucas and Mia huddled beside them, with Rachel's hand resting on Ethan's knee, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey, a reminder that, while the path was still full of uncertainties, there existed fragments of connection worth pursuing. In that dimly lit room surrounded by stars, they all surrendered to the wonder of the universe. Ethan found solace in the feeling that they were together on this expedition of discovery. Perhaps they could cross the chasm of their past and emerge transformed. As the show concluded, illuminating the possibilities of the cosmos in opposition to their intimate histories, Ethan felt a renewed sense of optimism. A glimmer of faith in the power of healing stirred within him. Today was the best, Mia squealed as they stepped outside into the fresh air. Yes! Could we come back next month? Lucas asked, practically bouncing. Definitely, Rachel affirmed, glancing at Ethan with a sparkle of determination. We'll make it a family tradition. As they drove home, the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting vibrant beams through the trees lining the road. Darkness would gradually envelop them, but the day had become a brilliant reminder of their potential. A small, yet significant victory in their journey toward renewal. For the first time since their journey began, as they exchanged laughter and stories, Ethan felt the grip of hope tighten around him. Together, they were writing a new chapter. The struggles would still exist, but the dream of a life defined by trust, love, and joy was returning. The road ahead remained long and filled with challenges, but with each step forward, Ethan began to believe in the possibility of a compelling future, one that would unite them all as a family once again.